Okay, so we need to talk about the new types of businessmen that are arriving on the scene in the Gilded Age. And in order to do that, there's some terminology that you need to be familiar with. So this conversation in this lecture is going to be really about getting a handle on new types of business models and the types of businesses that are popping up in the Gilded Age. So to start with, we need to get a handle on some terminology. The first term that we need to understand is this idea of social Darwinism. And to understand this one, I know that you are familiar with the ideas that were presented by Darwin. Darwin is really a contemporary during this time period. He's really started to do his research and study in the mid-1800s and started publishing up through the Gilded Age. Darwin's ideas, as you know from science, were about the idea that there is a plan of ways that traits are inherited by from parent to child, or given to parent from child. The other idea here is that in nature, survival of the fittest takes hold. So the stronger your traits are, and the more adapted you are to your environment, the stronger and more willing you are to be able to survive in the wild. So social Darwinism applies that concept to businesses. The idea here is survival of the fittest. The better your business model and the more able you are adapted to the marketplace, the better you're going to be able to stay alive in the U.S. marketplace, in our capitalist system. Laissez-faire is the idea that the government is not going to intervene in that field of the marketplace. The government is going to have a hands-off approach to the regulation of our economy. So businesses are free to survive or to fail without government intervention. And by government intervention, I mean regulation. That gives entrepreneurs or businessmen the opportunity to envision an idea for the marketplace and put that idea into motion. And in this era, we have a lot of ideas in terms of inventions that have made it onto the scene. And you've learned about this in your reading. We have electricity that's being harnessed in lots of ways, including the electric light bulb. Thank you, Edison. We have Alexander Graham Bell coming up with the telephone. We have motion pictures that make it onto the scene. We have automobiles that are showing up. We have Bessemer process, and the way we're making steel is improving, which means that the way we're building buildings is improving and going higher and stronger. A lot of new inventions on the scene, and these new wave of entrepreneurs are taking advantage of that. So that sets the scene. Now we need to focus on two different entrepreneurs who come on the scene in the Gilded Age and really make a big impact on the market in the United States, and in turn on politics in the United States. So the first guy that we're going to talk about is Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie, like we talked about in class, cars are made out of steel. Andrew Carnegie built a steel monopoly in America. And the steel monopoly that he built was related to his company called Homestead Steelworks. Andrew Carnegie was an incredibly wealthy guy, and he got wealthy because he came up with an idea of how to build his steel monopoly so that he kept all the money related to making steel housed within his own company. So he wasn't going to pay anybody else to make any of the pieces that go into making his steel. He's going to make it all himself. That is actually a type of monopoly. When you house all the money related to all the different parts of the manufacture of your particular product in your company, it's called a vertically consolidated company, or we'll call it vertical, C-A-L, I think, consolidation. Sometimes you don't see this word consolidation. sometimes instead you see this word integration. But vertical consolidation or vertical integration are the same thing. It just means that all of the things that go into making your product, like steel for Andrew Carnegie, are housed in one company. If you're going to think of this in terms of a shape, we're going to associate a shape with vertical consolidation. The shape I would want you to associate with this company idea or model is that of a stair step. So all of the different phases of a product's development are housed in one company or one set of companies in a vertical consolidated company. So let's take this idea of a vertical consolidation and apply it to steel. So if you're going to manufacture steel, the very first phase or process is that you've got to actually pull the iron out of the ground. So phase one is to own the iron mines. That's step one. So Andrew Carnegie didn't just own the places where steel was melted and created. He owned the iron mines where the raw materials were pulled out of the ground to go into manufacturing steel. We know that in phase three, he's going to have to send it to what is known as a smeltery. Sometimes we also use the word foundry. So he's going to actually have to manufacture the steel. What goes between step one and step three in phase two? What is he going to have to own between these two? If you're thinking transportation, you're right. Transportation. And then, of course, he's also going to move it beyond that into distribution. So Andrew Carnegie isn't going to outsource production of his product to anyone else. He's going to own all of the different phases of his product's development. That's called vertical consolidation, and that's what Carnegie was well known for. And it's one type of monopoly model. The other type of monopoly model comes from another entrepreneur of the Gilded Age, and his name was John D. Rockefeller. And remember in class we said rocks come out of the ground and so does oil. John D. Rockefeller is our oil tycoon, and his company was called Standard Oil. John D. Rockefeller came up with another type of monopoly. He was not so concerned with all the different phases of his product's development. He was concerned about his competition. And so he decided to eliminate the competition. So if you're going to think of a shape to explain what horizontal consolidation is, which is his type of monopoly, it would be an umbrella. So he did something called horizontal consolidation. Consolidation. Remember again, we can substitute the word integration for consolidation, and it applies. So if we're thinking of horizontal consolidation as being eliminating all the competition, he doesn't want any company out there pulling oil out of the ground and turning it, refining it into something that can be used on the marketplace. He wants to control all of that himself. What is he going to do? Well, he's going to merge with all the other oil companies